Deconverted man. Woo! Anyways, so it's been 6 months. Wow. This guy, Truth Be Told, on YouTube. I responded to a video he made 6 months ago, and he's back. Or, well, I guess he probably didn't go anywhere, but now he's responding to atheist comments by not responding to them. But that is to say, he's not showing the comments on the screen or, anything like that. So he's just kind of like off the cuff responding to the general vibe the atheist gave him, I guess. But he did mention something that I thought sounded like it was me. So I'm like, well, I got to talk about this then, because that could be about me. And that's all I care about. Now I also wonder, well, why isn't he responding directly to me, though? I mean, my video was only an hour long, right? And he said something about being respectful comments or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, I probably was disrespectful at some point. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, let's check it out. And I'll have some things to say about some of this, but probably not all of it. As you'll know, I'm starting at time index 627 because he said a lot of stuff that doesn't really matter for purposes of his responses to the atheist comments, and I just want to get to the part where he's responding to atheist comments. And he's still kind of a little bit doing that, but anyways, okay.
Making claims upon claims with no evidence or not enough evidence or not good enough evidence. And then there were also several comments making a lot of other claims like this guy's low IQ or this guy has no sound logic behind what he's saying or...
The part where he said he doesn't have sound logic behind what he's saying, that was probably me. That was probably me that said that. That's me. I know I say stuff like that. That was me. Hey, here I am. I did ask him if he wanted to come on my show and do a interview, because I'll give him an interview, and I'll do like I've always done with those interviews. It's just an interview. It's no traps, no anything, just to understand where the person's coming from. That's I like doing those from time to time. But anyways, okay.
This guy's an idiot, and I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, you're saying all these different claims by the evidence of one video. Like, you don't know my IQ, you don't know my training and logical abilities or whatever. I might have been wrong in that video. Even I might have presented wrong logical claims or given logical fallacies in that video. It doesn't make a claim about me as a person. It could be evidence for it, but not proof. But you treated it as if it was proof. So I just thought
you can ignore attacks against your person because the only things that matter are the attacks against the argument. So it doesn't matter if somebody's saying low IQ. That's a typical internet thing that people are doing these days. Bro, come on, low IQ, I think it's subpar. I don't think it's really anything you need to focus on or pay any attention to. The only thing is say, yeah, that's nice. My IQ is low. And what's your argument? I'll just agree with you. So what? That doesn't negate my argument. Now, what does matter is if you had faulty arguments, then that's all that matters. Whether you understand logic or have any training in logic doesn't really matter. Although if you don't understand logic and or have training in logic, then you're probably not going to make a logically coherent argument. But, you might.
That was interesting because so often that gets flipped and I'm making claims about God and giving you evidence and it's like not even close to enough. But you guys were making claims about me with limited evidence and it seemed to be plenty for you. So
yeah, people are hypocrites. That doesn't mean anything.
Kind of funny there. Not trying to be a slight at you guys, just something I found like, wait a minute, this seems like illogical in and of itself, but who am I to say? But like I said, I wanted to offer you guys a chance to come into our world for a minute and dialogue with us there. I realize how you thought of it as circular reasoning. I do. You're saying you're trying to prove the Bible by the Bible, and you can't do that. And I realize the difficulty of this because I'm put in that same position when you ask me to prove God by the laws of science.
Okay, so yes, it is circular logic or circular reasoning to try to prove this thing by the thing itself. So, for example, I've promoted many times The Lobsterist, which is a book that makes a lot of claims. And I could then say, hey, look, I want to invite you into my realm of The Lobsterist. And just from the point of The Lobsterist, let's have a dialogue within The Lobsterist where I prove The Lobsterist using The Lobsterist, and then you try to disprove The Lobsterist by using The Lobsterist. That's not going to make any sense. If I'm already in your realm and I'm already accepting these things as true, then we're done. I don't need to prove anything. So you assume that the Bible is true. Okay, why? We need some sort of reasons why any bit of the Bible could be seen as remotely true in the first place. The establishing argument for that must be made. There must be empirical evidence, archaeological evidence, some sort of data, some tests, something that can be done that establishes this writing as factual rather than mythological. Because the problem is, as far as I can tell, your writings, when it comes to the Bible, are going to be categorized as myth because they have supernatural claims in them. If they were free of those claims, then I could see it as potential actual history. But I can't. From my perspective, your religion is one of many. All religions, well, majority of religions, make supernatural claims. Okay, so in the past, people believed in such stuff. Now, people don't believe as much, but there are still people that believe in lots of supernatural things. People believe in, silly superstitions and all sorts of weird nonsense that I don't, buy into. There's no number 13. Ooh, 666. Ooh, mark of the beast. No, it's 610. Ooh, whatever. It's just a number. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to do anything to me. Walking under a ladder, possibly dangerous only because you might knock over the ladder, but not unlucky. Breaking a glass, not 7 years of bad luck. Just, well, it's expensive, so you might have to pay for it. Black cat crossing in front of you doesn't mean anything. Step on a crack, you'll break your mother's back. Well, no, you won't. It's just a thing that people say. And for me, there's those telephone pole, electric poles, and sometimes they'll have like a metal bar that goes over the cross or goes over the sidewalk, and that bar like leads to more power lines, right? And it creates this like thing that looks like a gateway. And I'm like, oh, if I go through that, I'll wind up in another universe. But of course I won't, But when I was a kid, I used to pretend like if you go through those, you'll go through another universe or whatever. So I would like go around and whatever. But as an adult, I haven't seen one of those in a while, so I don't know what I would do. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't care. I would go through it. Yeah. I'm not. I don't hold that weird belief anymore. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, but these are just superstitious, ideas that people have. Curses and blesses. None of them mean anything to me. Okay. So your Bible has Jesus doing things, that are not possible. Walking on water, not without some sort of trickery. That's not a thing that people can do. Turning water into wine. That's pretty dang impressive because you're talking about molecular manipulation and you're talking about removing atoms and then adding other atoms without fission occurring. That's probably one of the most impressive feats that Jesus does. in the story. Far more impressive than coming back to life, because that's just like whatever. That's just biology there. You know, you just had a really good doctor. Who cares? Whatever. You manipulated molecules. Are you kidding me? That's really impressive. Or maybe he just teleported the water out. I don't know, but whatever he did, it's far more impressive. But because of those magical, mystical, supernatural things, we categorize that as mythology rather than history, because we kind of have to. No miracles that I'm aware of have ever been shown to be even a thing that we can verify at all. So you can't point to an event or and say that is a miracle, because there's no method for doing so. So because of that, we can't know in the past that something was or wasn't a miracle. And so when someone claims it to be a miracle, we have to doubt that that event really happened and said, look, the people believe that it happened, but we have no proof that that can even happen. So we have to doubt it. And we don't have a choice. And we have to treat all writings in that same way. Otherwise, if we allow one supernatural claim here, we're going to have to do the same everywhere else. So we'd have to have a methodology that establishes your writings as being being set apart somehow from the other writings and shown to be something we can actually think is true, rather than mythology, rather than legendary stories that were created. So because you're not doing that, we don't believe the Bible. We don't have any reason to come into your house, into the Bible realm, and pretend that the Bible is true and listen to you talk about how true the Bible is. Why would I do that? I don't care. I want to know why you think the Bible is true in the first place, and what methods did you use to get to that conclusion? What research did you do? Where did you find that research? You know, what did that look like? How long did it take you? Did you explore other religions? You spoke about arguments. Did you study informal logic and or formal logic so that you could understand whether an argument is valid and sound or not? And I have all these questions that last time you didn't answer anything I asked. So I still have all these questions, but and I'm still going to have those questions unless you address them. So when you say, well, it's not fair, I'm stuck in this thing, this, and you guys are asking me to prove God using science. Yeah, well, science is a pretty darn robust system that we have that proves things. And like we have stuff like, TVs because of science. So it works. It works really, really well. And then you're making a claim about God. You're saying God is not a thing that I can verify using science. My question is, how do you know what God is in the first place? And the only honest answer that I think that you could give would be that the Bible tells you what God is. Although where the idea of God being non-physical is found in the Bible, I don't know, but I'll just assume that it's in there. I'll assume that somewhere it says that God is not provable by science in the Bible, even though I know that the word science is never used in the Bible, nor is the word logic or math, I think. There's a lot of words that just don't appear in the Bible. But the word faith shows up a lot. A whole lot. So anyways. But yeah, you're going to need to use something that establishes your God in the first place. So you're saying, well, I can't use science. How do you know you can't use science? Because I define God in this way. Okay, but why do you define God in that way? Because your Bible says that that's what God is. Okay, well then get outside of the Bible and tell us, why do you think that the Bible is true then? And that should be done ideally using the scientific method and or informal or formal logic. If you're using informal or formal logic, then you're going to be relying upon argumentations that are structured in a certain way. If you're using formal logic, it's going to be a little bit more abstract. So I'm going to assume you probably would use informal logic instead, because you're dealing with natural language there. So using informal logic, then you're going to have a structured argument, premise 1, 2, and then a conclusion. Now, sometimes there's more than 2 premises, and I don't like it when something has more than 2, but sometimes it's necessary because the argument's a complicated argument. But if you don't know how to use informal logic, then the best you could hope to do would be to look up an argument somebody else has made and copy and paste that argument. And you can then hope that they've got that right, but you yourself don't have a way to know whether that argument is valid and sound. I, however, have studied informal logic, so I can analyze arguments for logical fallacies. And as far as I can tell, every argument about any god so far has had at least one logical fallacy in it, if not more. But as soon as it has a logical fallacy, that's it. The argument's done. Bring me a different argument. The problem is apologists don't have any other arguments. They have the same old that they've had for years. St. Thomas Aquinas's arguments, the prime proofs, blah, blah, blah. They don't have anything new. There is no new arguments for God. The teleological, cosmological argument from design, the watchmaker argument, all these arguments that have been around for a long, long time that have already been pointed out to have multiple logical fallacies, but the apologists just ignore those fallacies because, I don't know, they don't have anything else, I guess. And that's a problem. And I think that this guy, seems genuine to me, seems to be really earnestly seeking the truth, and great, wonderful. So am I. We're both trying to figure out how the universe, how things work, right? But science actually can do that. Religion can't. Religion can only assert. Science can study. Religion is static. It's stuck. Whereas as science is flexible. When we learn something new tomorrow, then we go, okay, well, that's what it was. We were wrong. Okay, whatever. Go about our day then. Cool. With religion, you can never find out that certain things are wrong, like Mary being a virgin. Like, no, she's got to be a virgin when she has Jesus. That's a central doctrine. It can't ever be, well, turns out we found Mary's body. Somehow we know it's Mary, whatever. She had sex, and here's proof of that. Let's just say that we had that. No, you couldn't learn that. You'd have to reject that, or you couldn't learn that Jesus didn't perform one of the miracles. Maybe even one. You'd have to have them all. Because if one's in doubt, well, then the others are in doubt. So you could never learn certain things. You certainly couldn't learn that Jesus never existed, for example, because then you wouldn't be a Christian anymore. So there are certain things that you, as a believer, couldn't learn because doing so would make you not be a believer. And when I was a believer and I went to go explore and see if Christianity was true, and I looked for evidence to prove that it was true, I found diddly and squat. And I couldn't keep just believing because it sounded good. And I haven't seen Christians legitimately make the effort of really exploring their own religion. I've heard them say that they've done it, but I've never seen them do it. So I don't know. But anyways, as far as proving your God with science, yeah, you need to prove God in some way, shape, or form. But you can't do that because you say God is not a thing that you can prove by science. To which I ask, how do you know that that's true about God? And the only answer I think that you could say is because that's what the Bible says.
A Christian claim is that God transcends the natural world. And then you guys are asking me, well, prove him by the laws of the natural world. It's like trying to prove a painter by virtue of looking at a painting.
Okay, so this is again the watchmaker analogy or appeal to creation or created things versus uncreated things. Okay, so here's the problem. You know what a painting is, but if I show you something and it appears to be a painting of sorts, has several colors on it that are dripping down and have yet to solidify. They have yet to dry out. Okay. Well, did an artist paint this, or is this an accident that occurred? You know, paint spilled onto this canvas. Don't know. You don't necessarily have all the information to be able to deduce whether it was deliberate or accidental. So there might be then a test that you could do to figure out which it is. When we examine paintings closely using microscopes, we can see brush strokes, and people that do this for like there's a job you can get where you're an expert in this stuff, who can tell the difference between a fake painting and the real painting, because people duplicate famous paintings and they do so really well, but they don't do it well enough, and so they're counterfeits. You know, Leonardo da Vinci or whatever, you know, whoever it is, you know, Mona Lisa copy. Okay, so they can look at the brush strokes and say, look, this brush stroke goes in this way on what we, you know, say is the real one, and the painter that painted it used those brush strokes in like the majority of his paintings, so that's his paint style, and that's not here in this painting, so it's probably a fake. You can then look at the pigments used. Certain pigments weren't around at certain dates. Other pigments were used, but now have been discontinued because of lead and whatnot. So you can look and say, hey, those pigments shouldn't be there. That's a reason to think that this isn't the real deal. So you could come up with all sorts of tests that could confirm if somebody, you know, what there is to know about that painting. Now, whether you can confirm if it's been done by a person or it's accidental, I guess depends upon the nature of the painting. But there are plenty of tests that you could perform on the painting that then show you more information about the painting. Those tests are going to be scientific in nature. And yes, most of the time, people are responsible for paintings. But now, of course, we have AI that can generate paintings. So it's getting kind of weird and wonky pretty soon here, you know? So did a human do it, or did a machine do it? I don't know, you know, and there's going to be a test to perform that we can maybe figure out if it was a human or a computer. But is that a creator that is doing it ultimately? I guess. But is there a test then you can deduce to use on a painting that will show you that, yes, it was made by a person or a machine versus it was made completely on accident or by accident, but with a filtering mechanism of some sort? That methodology is missing in your analogy here, because we are asking for your methodology in regards to how do you design that this world is the painting. And you can't just say that it appears to be designed. You need to do better than that.
Now, I could look at a painting and say, well, there seems to be purpose behind it. There seems to be rhyme and reason behind it. The canvas wasn't just painted before. I mean, it's clearly paint on the canvas. So this all seems like plausible evidence for a painter. I'm doing the same thing with the world, but you guys want me to confine God to the natural world and say, prove him to us here. And
Well, both the painting and the painter are in the world. I don't see any benefit to calling it the natural world because it's just the world. There's natural is all is yeah, everything I know is natural. Everything I know is material. If there's anything other than that, then you're going to need some way to prove that. Some empirical evidence, repeatable tests, some valid and sound argument, which you don't have. And I know you don't have them because if you had them, you would have presented them. But all you can do is say, well, it doesn't have those things. Okay, great. Neither do ghosts. So ghosts exist. You can't prove ghosts through science. So you can't ask me for science to prove ghosts. Magic also exists. Magic is not studied by science. So you can't ask me to prove that magic exists by science. Is there anything that I could say at that point and say, well, you just can't study it using science, so therefore I don't owe you any proof? You see the problem there? Maybe not. All right, so let's go with goblins, ogres, and dragons. One of my favorite 3 entities to point to, because goblins, nobody cares if they don't exist. Ogres, don't care. Dragons, no, well, maybe a few people care about those, but broadly speaking, I think people don't care when you say goblins, ogres, and dragons don't exist. But when you say God, G-O-D, doesn't exist, people get upset because they believe in G-O-D, but they don't believe in goblins, ogres, and dragons. Well, why not? Well, because they haven't been indoctrinated into that belief in the way that they have with God, and there's no surrounding narrative to support that structure and no motivation within the brain to do so. So there's very little reason why people would believe in goblins, ogres, or dragons. Having said that, people believe in fairies. Oh, yeah. Ireland and Scotland have the Fae folk, which we would call fairies. And you can speak to people that will tell you stories about fairies, and if you ask them, they'll tell you those the Fae folk are real. They're really real, and they will point to things that they think are evidence of them. Well, so and so went lost, it disappeared mysteriously, and so that was the Fae folk. They took them. How do you know the Fae folk took them? Well, who else took them? How do you know anybody took them? Well, they disappeared. Okay, we know they disappeared. Where were they last? Well, they were on this road walking along by themselves. Okay, it was kind of foggy. Nobody could see them, and we were sure that they were going to be fine. And, it was only a few moments and then they disappeared. Where did they go? Who knows? I don't know. How did you do a search immediately? Did you use dogs on the search to sniff them out? Did you do forensics? No. Okay, you used how many people? I don't know, maybe 10, 20. Did you look here and there and there? And no. And then let's say you finally do find the body years later. Okay, well, we found him. Well, the Fae folk returned him. They returned him dead, but they did finally return him. Because there's no way to falsify what the Fae folk can or can't do. Because the Fae folk can't be proven by science. So you can literally say X cannot be proven by science and then make any claim that you want about X and then say, well, how dare you ask me to prove it? I can't prove it to you. It's not scientifically provable. Right. That's a problem. That's the problem. That is the problem. The problem is there is no way to verify it. And it's not just science that can't do it. There is no way to do it because you have nothing to offer. That's the problem. Your idea that God is supernatural is another claim that you have to prove, but you can't prove the supernatural because it's not a thing to prove. If you had an example of it, then you could show us, but you don't. So all you can do is make more claims about it. And I guess that would be frustrating for somebody that believes that they have the truth. The problem is you don't have a way to demonstrate that it's true. Therefore, we shouldn't believe that it's true. You believe it's true. I don't know why, but you do.
I'm saying the best I can do is prove that there is good cause to believe in something outside of this, whether you accept that or not. So we end up doing a little bit of this circular thing where you guys want circular reasoning from me by proving a transcendent God by the laws of nature.
No, that's not circular at all. And that you said that it's circular shows that you don't understand that particular fallacy, which then I infer to suggest that you don't understand informal logic. And given that you haven't made any argument at all, I wouldn't be surprised. How do you know that it's transcendent? How do you know that? That's an assertion that you've made. But what enables you to know that it's transcendent? But it's not circular to ask for something to prove something. If I ask for, using transcendent, I prove that there's transcendent, then transcendency proves transcendency would be circular. Nature proving nature, however, might not be. Why? That's a good question. You might want to explore the natural sciences to figure out why it wouldn't be circular. I'm not going to tell you everything. That would be no fun.
And then in this video, I'm asking you, can you prove this Christian claim from the laws of the Bible, which is also an internal argument. So
can you prove this Christian claim from within the Bible? Yeah. If you believe that the thing is true, then you can believe that the thing is true. This is silly. If you read The Lobsterist, then you will believe that The Lobsterist is true. I absolutely guarantee it, 100%. There's no way around it. That's why no one has debunked The Lobsterist. And nobody can, and nobody will even try to. And I know that for sure. And then if this guy reads The Lobsterist, he'll find out why that's so. But I guess he's scared. No. But no, seriously. Once you're in the system, then there's nothing to prove. I'm not going to do that. I have no reason to think that the Bible is true in the first place. Establish why the Bible is true, and then we'll talk.
I understand why it's frustrating, because I get frustrated when you guys want all this hard proof for God inside the...
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating that you don't have any proof at all for God.
The natural world, when logically that can't be true when our claim is that he is transcendent. I know that.
Yeah, it is a claim that God is anything at all is a claim. So prove your claim. You can't do that. All you can do is say that your claim is immune from proof. That's nice. So you have no proof then. That's logical.
That's frustrating to you. I do get it, but that is in fact the claim. So that's kind of how the discussion went in the comments. A lot of people questioning my intelligence or my logical abilities, or claiming circular reasoning, or tearing apart the Bible, or kind of going a little bit off topic and diving into why they don't believe in miracles. That happened a lot as well. And I'm not going to lie, like, I am not made for this stuff at all. I'm not made for like just hordes of people descending on my tiny YouTube channel.
Then get off the internet, buddy. Sorry. Let me be, actually, you know what? Let me be the first to welcome you to the internet where religion comes to die. Yeah. I read that somewhere when I was still a Christian, and I'm like, yeah, right. Well, now I'm a skeptic. So, just wait. It's coming for you. Skepticism's going to sneak up right on you. Boom! Before you know it, it's going to get you. And that's actually a good thing. Because once you let go of faith, all you'll have is facts. Fact after fact after fact after fact to learn about. And my goodness, reality is amazing. Far more amazing than this mystical, magical, made-up fairy tale that we still have around in our modern day and age. All the religions can do is make claims. Science can verify reality. Logic is a great, wonderful tool that I happen to be in love with and would marry if it was a girl, but it has its limitation. However, when it comes to gods, it seems that gods are all created by humans for humans. That all the ideas about God have been invented from us, by us. And there's no evidence of it because we made it up. That's the conclusion that should be drawn, given how many religions there are, given how many different ideas about God there are, given how many versions of God that there are, given that you can say anything that you want about God, and who can say that you're wrong or right for that matter? Because God is an abstract idea. It's one created by humans for humans. Religion asserts, whereas the skeptical path makes you say, I need to question everything.
And just like tearing me apart. Yeah, you can talk about the argument all you want. That's fine. But it got very personal, and that's not enjoyable. So for those of you that think,
yeah, it's going to get rough, buddy. You got to have a thick skin to be on the internet. I've been told lots and lots and lots of things over my years of doing this. Welcome to the internet, man. It's not for the weak. It's not for the feeble. It's devastatingly brutal out here.
think I'm trying to like pull one over on you, and even in this video, maybe I'm trying to like capitalize on the views. It's just not the case. Like, I'm just trying to talk about something I believe.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine to capitalize on views. That's like the point of YouTube, is to get views and stuff. We're all narcissists. Who cares? Yeah. I wouldn't be watching your stuff if you didn't talk about atheists. So if you don't want my attention, then don't talk about me anymore.
In a respectful and intelligent way. And that's the goal. So hopefully that's what you guys see. So I'm going to throw these comments up on the screen. I'll read them out loud for those of you listening on the podcast. And these are just a few people that I thought offered up, just simple questions. Or
hey, he's going to read the questions that people left. He's going to say their names and stuff. Why not put it on the screen? It's not that hard to do.
Or, easy things to talk about in a short video format. One guy, it says CanBest7668. He says, hey.
Oh, he did. He did the thing that I said that he should do. Oh, man. I love it when people do that. All right. Bonus points.
Hey, TBT guy, which I kind of liked. I don't know. I've never been called TBT guy, but
yeah, your name's going to get reduced to its letters. TBTYT.
Kind of a little nice moniker. He also went on in other comments to be a little less respectful, but in this, he just has a question. He says, key question, are you open to being wrong? Yes or no? Yes, absolutely. I believe wholeheartedly that my views should stand up to scrutiny.
Good. That's really positive. I'm glad to hear it.
Even within the Bible, when I'm looking in the Bible to understand the doctrines that I come to, I want them to be sound.
Okay, I have some questions about that. What version of the Bible are you using? Are you using multiple versions? Why? Who wrote those versions? That is, who decided that that language was appropriate to use? Do you know the ancient languages that it was written in and how to read in those languages? Who published your Bible? Do you know that? Yeah, I don't know. Just some basic questions. By the way, where was any part of the Bible found and when? And by whom? And what was canon and how was that decided? And who decided it when and where and how? Just a few questions I have about the Bible that you might have not thought about.
Paul in the New Testament meets these people, the Bereans, and they are given these claims by Paul. And it says they searched the scriptures to find out whether these things were true. And they are lauded for this. It's a really good thing that they had this healthy level of skepticism to want to prove what Paul said based on the truth they already understood. So
it's a story, okay? It's a story. I'm sorry. It's a story. You can write a story where your character encounters other characters who then interact with that character in any way that you want them to. So Paul, as far as I know, could just outright be making this stuff up and writing down that this is what happened. Or somebody that knew Paul could be writing it down because Paul paid them to. Whatever. And it could be completely made up, in whole. None of it's true. Even a little. How would I know? So they meet Paul and they say, is this true? Let's check the Bible. Oh, it's true what you said, Paul. Guess you were right. Yay, Paul. And Paul's like, look how awesome I am. By Paul. How awesome Paul is by Paul. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yes, I don't want to be in contradiction. I don't want something I believe to be false. So yes, I'm willing to be wrong, but this doesn't mean that I'm willing to like give up all of my interpretation of the Bible or
your interpretation of the Bible. How do you know that you're interpreting it correctly? In fact, how do you know that the words that you're reading have been interpreted correctly in the first place? Good questions to consider.
or how I understand scripture should be read in order to just accept your belief. So yes, I'm willing to be wrong, but it's going to need much more discussion than just like, well, here's this one point that you didn't consider from the Bible. Most often when atheists are doing that, I've read that part and I understand it very differently than they are. And then they'll say, well, that's just special pleading.
Yeah, your understanding of any part of the Bible is going to be your own theology, and it might be separate from every other Christian theology. I don't care. I really don't. Your method of how you decide how to view any bit of the Bible might be a little bit interesting, though.
You're just interpreting however you want. And I'm like, I think I'm interpreting how it's supposed to be, but okay. So
yeah, you think, but you don't have a method. So that's a problem. You could be interpreting it completely wrong. How would you know that?
we can't really meet great like common ground there, but yes, I am willing to be wrong, and I do try and test my beliefs against the fabric of reality, against the word.
Okay, cool. Test your beliefs against the fabric of reality. So what belief do you have that could be tested, and what would that test look like? And is there a fail condition for it? That if we do this thing and this does not produce X result, that means it is false. Let's do that test then. Let's set that up.
Words of scripture and against any evidence that I'm presented with. The next comment is from Khan Naga. It says, firstly, I'd like to thank you for your approach and openness to engage in conversation. Not many believers do so. That being said, I'd like to point out the main flaw in your argument in my view. Let's assume, first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate you like recognizing what I was trying to do and then replying in the same way. He says, let's assume that we do not find any sins committed by Jesus in the Bible. From that point, how do we assume that the claims are real, and how do we demonstrate that? It says, we atheists have no problem believing that a historical figure named Jesus existed, at least not me. However, I do not believe any of the supernatural claims. Okay, first.
Can you finish reading his comment first? On the other hand, there's too much evidence to prove the Bible is an unreliable source of information, mainly due to human tampering. So the very premise of using the Bible to prove the Bible is nonsensical. Oh, well.
Me. However, I do not believe any of the supernatural claims. Okay. First off, this atheists have no problem believing in a historical figure named Jesus. I tried to make that point. I've tried to even quote Bart Ehrman where he says, like, you know, he believes that a historical Jesus existed.
I don't. Just don't. The thing is, with the historical Jesus, to get to a historical Jesus, you're left with virtually nothing. The Bible is the only thing that talks about Jesus at all as being in any kind of closeness to it. Things that talk about Christians later on, might also say they believe in Jesus, but that's it. And these writings appear, I think, the earliest, off the top of my head, I want to say 20 years maybe after the fact. Maybe you can find a little bit less, but even now, some people make a big deal of the gap of time because 10 years is a long time. But I would say even if you had writings from that day, it wouldn't matter because we have the Book of Mormon, which was written essentially in a few days. Was written rather quickly. So it's not impossible to make something up in full on the fly and to have it be written immediately upon presentation. In fact, the Book of Mormon, I would say, is closer to, anything that we have in the Bible. The time period from when the event supposedly happened to when it got written down for sure is really big in the Bible. The Book of Mormon, at least, is right on top of it. But it's still a legend. It's still a myth. It didn't happen. It's not real. So what's your methodology to show us that it really happened? And the Jesus that's historical, he just vanishes into nothing. There's really not much you can say about him once you remove all the miracle claims.
Whether he believes in the supernatural claims or not. But a lot of atheists were like, no, you have to give me proof for that. You have to prove that he existed. Still, that argument's being hashed out. So I appreciate you admitting that at least there's a potential for a historical Jesus to exist. But the supernatural claims thing is kind of aside from the point. Although you did say,
that's the entire point.
Assume that no sins were committed by Jesus. I would say that is proof of a supernatural thing. If you can...
What are sins, though? Here comes the problem, okay? So we want to say Jesus committed no sins, right? So we need to know what all the sins are, right? Well, the 613 commands in the Bible, are all those things sin? The Jews seem to think so. Or is it just the top 10? I don't know. But it seems to me not disobeying any of that wouldn't be that difficult. But how you have to do it from birth until forever, until you die? Again, not impossible, but you'd have to learn pretty quickly, right? Like, if you're a baby and you say, "God damn," does that count as blasphemy? Or does it not count because you're just a baby and you don't know any better? For all we know, Joseph was standing around, "God damn it, Mary, you had this baby and we weren't even married yet, Mary." And then, because he kept saying God all the time, Jesus came out and started saying, "God damn," and they're like, no, baby Jesus, don't do that. You'll make your daddy cry. And like, "Daddy," and he'd point up, and Joseph would be like, "I'm right here. Point to me. Oh, sorry, I'm not his father. His father is in heaven. Of course he is. I knew he was a guy that you saw last night." "No, he wasn't. I swear. I never had sex." "All right, but we're going to have sex tonight." "No, we can't because I'm Catholic." Anyways, whatever. But that was a weird tangent.
Verify that happened, then it's proof of a miracle that happened, because no human can accomplish that. I mean, just try it for 5 minutes. You simply can't do it.
Try it for 5 minutes? For 5 minutes? Not sin for 5 minutes? Okay. Let's see. I think these are mixed fabrics, so I'd have to get naked. Is being naked a sin? Let's see. Nope. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to sin. So I'm going to sit here for 5 minutes and say and do nothing. Would that not be sin? I mean, I think I could do it. Doesn't seem to prove anything to me, but okay. Whatever. I guess we'd have to have, like I said, a list of sins. We'd have to know all the sins are. But apparently not doing them is miraculous. Cool. And doing it for even 10 minutes or 5 minutes would be miraculous? Okay. But we need the list then.
He goes on to say, on the other hand, there's too much evidence to prove the Bible is an unreliable source of information, mainly due to human tampering. So the very premise of using the Bible to prove the Bible is nonsensical. Like I said before, I wasn't trying to use the Bible to prove the Bible. I was trying to dialogue within the confines of the Bible a biblical claim.
That's the same thing.
I know we're going to get into a different comment in just a second that kind of goes into this a little bit more deeply. But he asks the question in the beginning, let's assume we do not find any sins committed by Jesus in the Bible. From that point, how do we assume that the claims are real, and how do we demonstrate that? Essentially, this guy has an issue with the credibility of Scripture.
Yeah.
If the Bible were true, then he's offering me these things on face value, saying, let's just say those are true, but how do we know they're true? So this is already a little bit circular, but I understand you.
Stop saying circular. You don't know what circular means. You don't know what it means.
You have a difficulty accepting the claims of the Bible because you see too much human tampering. I would point you to the study of biblical criticism or textual criticism. And if you do this, I believe that there are overwhelming statistics in favor of the validity of the Bible.
You believe that there are overwhelming statistics in favor of the Bible. That's an interesting belief. Why haven't you done that? Why haven't you looked into that? Why are you telling him to do something that you yourself haven't done? And more importantly, why haven't you done it? Oh, I believe that there are... Oh, really? Can you give us any source at all that you find to be reliable and robust and testable, etc.? You do that work for us. I don't see any reason why I should.
Being the text that we have, faithfully transmitted throughout the ages. Yes, there's been tampering, but those things have been recorded like very, very well. So just...
Oh, really? They have? Then I'm sure you have examples of that. So you know what when it's been tampered with. So do you have that list then of when and where it was tampered with, by whom or whatever, what verses were or weren't tampered with? Do you have that? Can we get like something that shows us that? Why is it still in the Bible though? There's things in the Bible that they'll put a little note at the bottom that scholars don't think that it should be in the Bible, but it's still in there anyways. So why is it in there if scholars think it shouldn't be in there? Kind of weird, huh? But yeah, there's a little teeny tiny note that hopefully you'll read to say, oh, well, that wasn't supposed to be in there according to the experts. But it's still there. And why are things mentioned by the Bible that aren't there? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well.
Just look into that side of things. If you're genuinely curious and you'd like to know, how do Christians believe that the Bible is like a valid message when it's been tampered with so much? Go to textual criticism. There's a lot of really good, brilliant people working in this field. Both.
All right, cool. Name one. Link us to one. Don't just say that there are. Give us the resources. Surely you've done that, right?
Skeptic and Christian. So it's kind of a across the aisles discipline that's going on here. And the statistics seem to be that we do have a credible text. Again, whether you want to believe...
The statistics say that. Really? Where are these statistics? Citation, please?
Believe what statistics seem across the aisles discipline that's going on here, and the statistics seem...
Yeah, no citation. Uh-oh.
To just accept your belief. So yes, I'm willing to be wrong. Again, whether you want to believe what's in those texts is up to you.
Then I don't believe them. I don't believe a thing that's in any of these texts. Okay.
But at least we have verified the historicity of Scripture. So,
but you haven't. That's the problem.
I think if we got to that point, we could come back and have a better discussion after that.
Yeah, so go ahead and do that. You haven't. Don't tell us to go do your homework for you. You do that work and then demonstrate that you've done that work.
Next, we have Ari Feliciano 1275, and they said, no, atheists do not have the burden of proof. You have to provide evidence that Jesus did not sin. The Bible is not evidence, it is the claim. Now,
right, he's got it right.
This is where we get into the Bible a little bit more. I appreciate this comment. I got it a few times. I think what's missing, though, is an understanding that the Bible is not just one source or one book. It's a collection of books across.
Now, we know that. We know more about the Bible than Christians usually. That's actually been studied. That atheists tend to know more about the Bible than Christians do. But at any rate, whatever.
Time, written by different people, communicating essentially the same thing. And that's
essentially the same thing. Written by how many people? Well, we don't know. Written when? You don't know. We don't know who wrote it. When, where, how, why. Don't know.
An amazing thing. If you believe the Bible is one source, then yeah, it's something saying this is true, and it's true because I said it's true. And that.
No. The problem is that all the people are writing down beliefs, and that they're, following the same story. Yeah, okay. That doesn't make it more true. It's still a claim. Each individual claim is still a claim.
That just doesn't work. But the Bible has multiple sources attesting to some of these singular claims. So, yes.
You've got 3 at best. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Okay, 4, right? Well, but are they Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John? Are they people claiming to be those people? Are they people claiming to have interviewed those people? Don't know. Problem with one of the Johns is he dead. He died because he got his head chopped off. So he definitely couldn't have written the part where he got his head chopped off. But he could have written stuff leading up to that. Like, see, he enters this palace, if I remember right, and like the person's like mad at him. I don't remember what exactly, but basically they get him, they chop his head off, they put his head on a platter, and then they give it to the queen or whatever, and she's like, "Yay! Hooray! I get his head!" Like, because he really didn't like him or something, or he did like him, but he didn't want her. So I don't know, whatever. So he could have written like, "Okay, I'm about to go into the palace. I'll continue this story when I get out. All right, put that down in my house where I know it's safe. Going into the palace. This is gonna be a great day." And then somebody in the palace, I guess, was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I'm gonna go tell John's spouse. Hey, John's wife. John's dead. Sorry. This is how it happened, by the way, because I saw everything go down. He came in, got his head decapitated, put it on a platter, showed it to the queen. She was really happy about it. Just wanted you to know all that. Sorry that you're crying now. Hey, you probably should write that down immediately so you don't forget. Bye!" Because that's, how else did they, how did they know that? Because it can't be John writing it because he's dead. So So anyways, but yeah, so you've got 4 people. Whoopie-doo. That's still just a claim. Doesn't matter how many people say it's true. That doesn't make it true. But you only have 4 people. That's not much. The Lobsters has like tens of thousands of people, I think, that are claimed to have written it. Pretty sure. I don't remember the exact number now.
Yes, one book might make the claim, but later and earlier books might attest to that claim with evidence. So,
no, they never have evidence. They just have more claims.
The Bible can claim things, but it can also easily be evidence for things as well, because we
No, it can't be.
have multiple sources represented.
No, that you have multiple sources represented doesn't make it true.
Then we have Sean Lilly 5881 who says, what about the parts of his life that are not in the Bible? Is it possible Jesus sinned and it was not written down? Absolutely, that's possible. Obviously, that's difficult because then you can't dialogue with Scripture on those parts because they don't mention those parts.
Yeah, Jesus went from being a kid, being a baby, really, to immediately being an adult. And the Catholics actually have a little bit of stories with him as a kid, which are kind of interesting. But all that part of his life is completely absent. Even if it's boring, which I'm sure it would have been, you would think somebody would have interviewed Jesus about that. Like what was life like? You know, let's hear the story. I mean, he's a really interesting person that's really important to these people. Nobody thought to go interview his mom and dad and brothers and stuff and find out what his childhood was like. Come on.
However, I still think this discussion can be had because in the Bible, there is the claim by some biblical authors that Jesus never sinned. Sean Lilly 5880.
Yeah, and that's all it is, a claim.
One says, what about the parts of his life that are not in the Bible? Is it possible Jesus sinned and it was not written down? Yes, it's possible. However, I'd reply to this that there's a really difficult thing to get around with this because the Bible is still claiming this. And the claim is not made like in isolated ways. It's made by people that were very close to him. The brother of Jesus, James, or perhaps his cousins, James and John. These were people that knew Jesus. They were friends with him. And so they would have known that he had sinned. Like if he sinned early in his life, it's not like someday he just stopped. They would.
How do you know that? And how would they know that? Like, if Jesus said, "Hey guys, I gotta go to the little boy's bathroom," because Jesus, you know, being human, would have had to go to the bathroom, which is where, of course, I've got to do it. I mean, I have to. I have to do it. So this isn't an insult, okay? So you can't not respond to my video because of this, but I have to do it. Jesus took a holy shit. Okay, all right. Anyways, come on, it's funny. So Jesus, after taking during his holy shit, you know, he was there sitting in the bathroom as one does. Now, Jesus was a guy, so I think it's possible that Jesus, polished his crucifix, worked his magical wingman, played with his holy pope. You know what I'm saying? Just saying. Now, some people think that that's a sin. Others don't. But that's not something that they would see him do because he'd do it in private. And how would they know that he didn't do it? You can't tell. How do they know that, well, Jesus is on his own? He's not like, screw you, God. In fact, Jesus questions God. He's like, why are you doing this? I don't want to do this. I'll do it. Fine. So I guess questioning God is not a sin. But, like, you're just saying that they would know, but you don't know that they would know. And you're like, it's not like he sinned and then he stopped sinning. How do you know that? Like, why not?
They would have known that he had sinned, in which case they'd probably stay away from this claim that he was sinless, and yet they don't. They make that claim multiple times. So you have to ask yourself, why would that be?
Because they made it up. Because the whole story is made up. None of it's true. None of it's real. It's all made up. That's why.
Now, some of you talked about the Gospel of Thomas as well, which does cover kind of the youth period of Jesus's life. That part the Bible doesn't really talk about. But most people have this dated so late in the game that it can't really be compared to the eyewitness accounts we have of the gospel,
But you don't have eyewitnesses to the gospel because, like I said, the earliest one is, 10 years late? So you don't have eyewitnesses. You just don't. Even if you did, it still doesn't matter because they could have made it up anyways.
brings me to my last thing I'd like to comment on. So many people had this view that the Bible is written. I saw so many comments. I couldn't even just pick one because some of them were just so long. But it is the last thing I wanted to comment on. People would say, we have no idea who wrote the Bible. It's written by anonymous people.
Correct.
But then it would go on to say, written by anonymous people during this time period with this bias, with this. And they list all these things about the authors that somehow they knew.
Yeah, well, we know what biases the people at the time had. So we can know a lot about the authors without knowing who the authors are.
Even though they were anonymous, there's a lot of evidence to support the fact that these were written early on and could easily be eyewitness accounts.
Really? What is that evidence? Citation? No? No citation? Okay.
I understand you have support on your side as well. There's people that have late datings for the gospel accounts, but there's also good evidence for early datings as well.
Like what?
That put it well within the lifetime of the disciples. So
that doesn't mean anything. Okay, so here's the problem with that. Let's say the disciples don't know how to... Whoa. The disciples don't know how to read or write. Maybe one of them does. But also, let's just say Joe Schmo here across the street from me says, hey, I know about that Dan Green guy. I know his name. I'm going to write a story about him. And I don't know because I'm just doing my life. I'm doing my thing, whatever, right? And he writes it. He did this, he did that, whatever. And then he gets it printed and everything because he's got money, to do that. This is back in the day. We're having to pretend that we're in ancient times and that I'm not in a modern setting. But at any rate, he writes down a bunch of stuff that I did. And I don't know that he wrote any of it. And then within my lifetime, he publishes it. But I don't know because I can't read. And hardly anyone can read. And nobody's reading it. And if they did read it, they don't necessarily know it's about me. Or if they do know it's about me, they might not know me to ask me about it. So they might wind up believing that it's true and never asking me about it at all. It's possible. Just saying. There's nothing to prevent people that aren't the people that they claim to be from making up stories about these people. Nothing at all. Nothing to stop that from happening.
I guess we could agree to disagree on that and just kind of focus on the claims in there themselves. Right?
No, we can't agree to disagree. You're just wrong. Unless you can prove you're right, you're wrong.
Rather than who wrote them, but I understand validity of the Bible is important to you. But I'd say look that up because the dating of that is highly contested.
No, you look that up and you prove that you're right about it. You do the research. You present that research to us, the skeptics. It's not our job to do the homework for you. And in many cases, we have. Okay, I have done that work already years ago. I'm not doing it again. It's up to you to do it now. I already did that. I'm convinced none of this happened. Period. Not even a little. None of these stories, as written, really happened at all. They are pure fabrications from start to end. That's my conclusion after I investigated all this stuff. But I'm not doing that work again just to present it to you, who's going to be like, yeah, well, whatever. We can just agree to disagree. No, you do that work and find it out for yourself. And then you present whatever your findings are to us. Yeah, let's see you do that. Don't put it on us, buddy. Goodness, that irritates me.
And not just automatically a win for your side saying, well, yeah, super late dates must not have been eyewitness accounts.
It doesn't matter even if they were eyewitness accounts. Like I said, they aren't, but it wouldn't matter even if it was the people themselves making that claim. That doesn't change anything at all because people make up stories all the time. So There's nothing to prevent the person from sitting down and saying, I'm going to make up a bunch of stuff. Hey, you want to make up this story with me? Yeah, sure. I'll make up what's the story like? Let's just make up this story. I'll write about it. Yeah, okay. I can get 4 people to do that. So what? Doesn't mean anything. It's easy to do. And you might, well, why would they do that? Why not? They're bored. They got nothing else to do. They're boring fishermen sitting around all day. So they're just telling stories. And this one story became really popular among them. And they're like, hey, why don't we pay for somebody to write this down? Maybe one of them was like, hey, I kind of know how to write. Okay, good. You write down a little bit of it. Let's get it written down, though. And then so they go pay somebody and they get it written down. And maybe they tell a different version a little bit later on. They get that one written down. And maybe they tell a different version, but it's still the same story, basically. And they get that one written down. And they're like, okay, that story is going to exist for a long time. All right, good job, everybody. Let's go home. How do you show that didn't happen? How would you show that? How would you indicate that? How would you prove that? So even if they're eyewitnesses, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Because it's not proof that this stuff happened. That's the problem. You need something other than I said that it happened as proof. And you don't have that.
There's a reason that Christians still hold to that, and it's not just wishful thinking.
Actually, it is just wishful thinking, because there isn't really a reason why Christians still hold to that other than its tradition.
I appreciate you guys listening. I realize this might have just inflated more conflict, and I hope that's not the case. But
oh no, you're wrong. It has inflated conflict. Hi, I'm Deconverted Man. Welcome to the internet where religion comes to die. And I've done it again. It's another hour-long video that he won't respond to. All right, that's fine. In 6 months, I'll check in with him again and see if he's made any progress researching anything at all, or learning logic even a little, or giving us any citations for anything. I'm not going to hold my breath, because every time I've asked anybody for any of that, they never have delivered yet. And he won't be any different. Until next time, be skeptical, and after that, stay skeptical. Yep. All right.